Could I buy this cheap door? Yeah, but I already know that in 7 years I'm gonna have to replace it. So like, is that the right decision? So I paid 2 times as much for this door as I could have paid maybe 10% more for a quality one. And I think that that's where businesses who are successful have the best impact, is that they have a model that says that their product has credibility in the marketplace. It performs the way it's supposed to perform. It's innovative and creative. It gives the flexibility for what it needs, and it provides all of the things that you need and has a warranty that matches. Those are the things that I think matter to people. The price will stay down if you do things the right way.
Welcome to the Modern Craftsman podcast. Today's guest is someone who doesn't just work in sustainability, he lives it. George Bandy has spent decades reimagining what it means to lead with purpose, care for the planet, and leave something behind that matters. We're not just here to talk green initiatives. We're here to talk about legacy, values, grief, love, and what it means to carry forward a vision that's bigger than yourself. One of our most enjoyable conversations to date. I hope that you guys enjoyed as much as we did.
And of course, guys, this podcast is brought to you by Andersen Windows. If you want to create some of the biggest openings possible, look no further than the Andersen lift slide door. This is one of several sliding glass walls that Andersen makes, and while all can offer panoramic views, the lift slide door is truly eye-opening. It can be absolutely massive for 60-foot wide openings and with glass panels up to 16 feet tall. And it can still effectively manage water thanks in part to 2 sill options, including a patented flush drainage track. These tracks are made from hardened anodized aluminum. They're thoroughly tested and they meet AAMA performance standards, making them reliable in tough weather conditions. And with Andersen's proven track record, support, and training, installing this sliding glass wall is easier than you think. So for more information, head over to andersenwindows.com/moderncraftsman.
This podcast is brought to you by Buildertrend. And if you're wondering why Nick and I are laughing so hard, you're just going to have to hope that we put out a blooper at some point because we just had some fun on the last ad read. Now I'm going to have some fun on the Buildertrend ad read. Still running your jobs off of a whiteboard, Dropbox, and your phone? You're not alone, but you don't have to keep doing it that way. Buildertrend brings all your tools into one platform. Schedules, change orders, estimates, payments, it's all connected. If you're ready to stop duct taping your systems together, head to buildertrend.com/mcdemo to schedule a free demo and see how it works. Seriously, pull over. Put down your drill and go to buildertrend.com/mcdemo right now to schedule your call. You can't afford to wait.
This podcast is also brought to you by Harnish Workwear. Maintaining a professional appearance and consistent branding on a job site can increase your effectiveness by 23%. Harnish Workwear understands the importance of branded apparel. Their H-Label program offers elevated customizable work uniforms. Whether it's through embroidery, print, or custom patch applications, they collaborate closely with you to ensure your team exudes a cohesive and polished experience. Their team of skilled in-house printers and designers deliver customizable gear fully prepared for use. Head over to harnishworkwear.com to elevate your brand.
Well, I appreciate y'all having me, and it's always an honor and pleasure to be kind of in a new podcast. You guys, I will tell you this, I've been in a few, and your questions, I was like, man, it took me damn half an hour just to look through the questions. And then when I started answering, I'm like, man, this is a 3-hour process right here, because your thoughts start running. You got to really give it some thought. So I jotted down a few notes just to kind of use as prompts, but I'm pretty detailed, and I've been doing this a long time, so I feel pretty safe.
No, we should be good to go. Honestly, I'm happy to hear that, and I appreciate you taking the time to answer that. And that, like, I'm actually super pumped you said it, because the whole goal with those questions was to get you thinking, just to give some unique insight as to who you are, and just not even just business, but life experience as well. After doing this for 8 years, you have all different types of guests on and everything else, and you don't want to hear the same conversation over and over again. And I think that everyone does have some sort of unique experience or perspective on life that's super valuable, that if we can dig into that and captures some sort of aspect of that for the conversation, I think that makes for a really valuable podcast for our listeners. So I know they were very deep, involved questions, but I'm glad that they got you thinking.
They did. It took me back a little bit. I had to kind of pull up some inner thoughts to kind of get some of your questions answered. But it was very good. It kind of, it's a good prompt. Actually, it was one of the things that I think I may go back and use some of those questions. I'm going to be drafting a book at some point. So
Oh, that's cool.
they were good
That's
prompts.
awesome. Yeah. So I was looking up your background. It's like every single thing that you've done professionally, there's sustainability attached to. So obviously that's a huge part of your story and your lifestyle, your profession, your career. But where did that all begin for you? Like, was it as a child that you began to feel the weight of sustainability, or is this something like post college, high school, as you came into your career? Where did that all start?
Honestly, now that I reflect back, it's my grandmother. So my grandfather was a farmer. I grew up in a small town in between Auburn and Tuskegee in Alabama called Opelika, Alabama. And my grandfather had a farm, chickens, pigs, goats, everything. So grew a farm. And my grandmother really never threw anything away. And like when we were younger, I didn't really pay any attention to it. But like everything had some other extension. So if it was like the old metal cans, she used them for like saving coins or for flower pots or for like, and it was always interesting to see how she never really threw anything away. Like ends of yarn she used to make other stuff with. And she never really like hoarded stuff either. So like if we had a lot of eggs, if the hens laid a lot of eggs or whatever, she would go and like take them to the neighbors or go uptown. We'd market them. Like, so everything like had a whole connectivity. And I didn't recognize it early on, but now when I go back, I think about how she instilled us being stewards of the earth and being responsible for 7 generations down the road and making sure that we were conscious of the fact that, what we had was not meant only for us, but it was meant for other extensions of life. And so I could never like put my finger on it. Like I go back there now, we still own the house and the house is shaded appropriately because of the way my father and grandfather planted trees. And like, she still doesn't have an air conditioner in that house. And the way that it's shaded, it protects the house at the appropriate times where the sun is. And like, people don't think about stuff like that no more. And so, I'd have to say that she started it. And then like after that, there was like this huge understanding of connectivity and sustainability and the approach of, me having to be responsible and we didn't have much, right? I come from the first person on my mother's side of the family to go to college, the second person on my dad's side of the family. My dad went back to college when he was 54 years old and graduated in 3 years, magna cum laude. And I end up going to the same college. He graduated in 85. I go in 86. So like, and that's Morehouse in Atlanta. And so like those types of things, kind of created humble beginnings, but it also created a very strong connectivity to nature. I really am frustrated with like this generation who have no connection to outside, right? They, I still can be outside and 45 minutes before it rains, you can tell by the way the wind shifts, how clouds start to move. Like there are things that I know optically. You can look, and people don't think about this, but if you ever notice in hurricanes and tornadoes, the animals never are flying around.
I can't.
Hurricanes, George, we don't have tornadoes on the.
You know what I mean? You never see cows, you never see squirrels, you never see like raccoons.
Quiet before the storm.
Deer. You never see those things flying around. You know why? They've got enough sense and connectivity to nature because they're outside. They can feel it before it actually occurs, right? And we used to be that way as human beings, but we've got so disconnected because now we're incubated, we're inside all of the time. We don't know the signs when we see them. Like if you're outside and the birds aren't flying, hello. Yeah. There's a storm coming, right? Like people don't recognize those things because if you don't hear, like normally when you go out, it's chirping, you see the squirrels running. But if it's quiet, it's quiet for a reason, right? There's nature is sending you a sign because they have connectivity. And so like those things I think were like intriguing to me as a kid. And I would ask like really weird questions and I'd be diving into stuff. And my grandparents and parents would be looking at me like, yeah, well, that's normal. Like for them, it was normal. But nowadays it's like people aren't as connected. And so I went to college and I was also in the reserve. So I went to Iraq and served in Desert Storm in 1990. And when I came back from Iraq, I only needed one class. So the school made me take this class in environmental justice by Dr. Robert Bullitt, who's known as the father of environmental justice. And I was in his class and I was challenging myself because it was the only class that I had. And he was like, environmental justice is not for you. You need to be focused on this new thing called sustainability. So I really give him a lot of credit because he said it and I didn't think about it. And he gave me this book by Paul Hawken. And I read that book by Paul Hawken and like things started to just happen. So
What's the difference between sustainability and environmental justice?
environmental justice is focused on injustice in communities, people who are mistreated. For example, if you ship your waste to a third world country and a third world country has to deal with it, or NIMBY, not in my backyard, all the landfills being in minority and Hispanic communities, those are environmental injustices. So like that's like really fighting for those things. But sustainability is more connected to taking things from Mother Nature faster than you can put them back, placing them in an environment that is not prepared to manage them appropriately, and then not having an end of life disposition. And so if you apply that to business, if you think about the businesses that have been successful for the longest period of time, is the ones who control their supply chain, the ones who also have an end of life disposition, so turn waste into food, and can actually have a full cyclical system.
It's interesting that we're discussing this, and I question how it relates to business, like on a deeper level than just sustainability from a business perspective. But I was just listening to a podcast where the guest, like a very well educated individual, but wanted to basically get rid of all his possessions to be able to be as present in life as possible. And one thing that he mentioned about like what he's doing, people view within our country is like it's insane that he wants to get rid of his computer and his license and his passport, and it's just so like polarizing to our beliefs. And one thing that he said is that living in the US, it represents like 4% of the world population, but we consume 20 to 25% of like the global resources. So do you think that this is something that like it's obviously more prominent in the US, but like from a generational perspective, is this bigger than just what we're seeing within our own economy?
Well, think about this. I think that sometimes people don't recognize something that's realistic. The earth is the same size. It's not getting any bigger. We're not like we can say, hey, Lord, we need about 1,000 more trees over here. Like we have the carrying capacity that we have. But one of the things that we can't control is there's an increase in population, affluence, and technology. And all of those things require more resources than we've ever needed before. Right? So you're taking more from the Earth's crust faster than Mother Nature can put it back. And you're increasing population and affluence and the need for more materials. If you think about like my daughters and my son, they order stuff all the time that they don't really need. And they say they're going to send it back. It doesn't go. But just think about that multiplied times the millions and billions of people. Like, so all of a sudden now you've got this huge increase in population, which we can't control. Of course, some people would say, oh, we just need to control having babies. That ain't going to happen because culturally richness is connected to having more children. Like, so that's not going to happen. Let's forget about that part. Right. But you got this huge increase in population. Right. You got a decline in living systems. This is happening right in front of our eyes. Right. We see it all the time. Something's becoming extinct every day. Right. So you got this decline in living systems. And then you've got a growth and a use of more materials that's going to happen. So like what begins to happen? Like at a certain point, there's going to be a breaking point where materials aren't going to be as readily available. People think that we can innovate our way out of this. And there's only so much innovation. Every innovation requires more resources, though. So every technology that comes out, AI, all these things, they require more resources. It's not like it's free. It's just that you don't see them. The problem is that people disconnect themselves with the things that they think are for forever. It's not a coincidence that you have rolling blackouts. Not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that you have floods in places that you've never had floods before. It's not a coincidence that you get snow in April, right? It's not a coincidence. These things are not coincidences. They are adjustments that nature's trying to fix herself on its own. And we have plausible deniability. I always tell businesses that one of the things, my favorite quote is, it's not okay to privatize the wealth and socialize the risk. We go and we privatize the wealth and we enjoy life while we're here, and we leave this next generation to deal with certain things that we are not preparing them to be able to deal with. And we distance them at the same time from having the connectivity of the responsibility of understanding that. And those are some of the challenges that we face in sustainability globally. And that's a bigger, broader issue that you're starting to see really take hold in lots of different ways.
I want to come back to that quote just in a minute, but
Sure.
I came across this article the other day. Are you familiar with the DNA building in London? It's apparently Fletcher Priest created it.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
I found it super interesting, and it's like going back to sustainability, Tyler. It's this essentially every piece of material, every screw that went into that building has a digital ID.
Yep.
And the idea is that when that building is decommissioned, it's decommissioned. It's not demolished, and every piece goes back into the supply chain and is reused to build. And I found that, I sat with that article for a while, and I'm like, man, like that's insane. To think that down to the screw, like just, but so forward thinking, right? To your point, the ability to, save the future generation rather than just like take from what you have today and completely ruin it for tomorrow.
Yeah. There are several businesses that have done this underneath your noses and you don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
I'll give you one that I guarantee you don't recognize. When's the last time you purchased?
You're going to throw another window company under the bus right now?
I'm staying away from windows because I don't want to. When's the last time you purchased a camera?
A couple months ago.
Picture camera.
Phone company, I guess.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So, who's the premier leader in manufacturing phones?
Apple.
What percentage of their phones are recycled?
I have no idea.
95%. You know why? They have the best business model in the world. They charge you $2,000 for a phone. And then AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, whoever, they charge you this amount of money for service every month.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of its life, what do?
Trade it in and get a new one.
Well, when you trade it in, what do? Their assembly plant is connected to their disassembly plant. They take that phone, take all the raw material from it, and make a new phone. 95%. The touchscreen, the tungsten, the cobalt, the gold is all recycled in a manufacturing facility. Think about this model. We're going to sell you a phone for $2,000. You're going to give it back to me for $300. You're going to buy another one for $2,000, and you're going to pay for the service along the way. And then you're going to give me all the raw materials back to make it.
You're not buying it. You're leasing it. Yeah.
What profit model is that? I don't have to buy as many raw materials as I once had to buy because you're going to have to turn the phone back in. So I'm not purchasing a whole lot of raw materials. Now, you imagine this business model. Imagine if you didn't have to buy any raw materials, people are going to give it to you for free. And now all of a sudden you can make them a new phone and then charge them full price and wait for them to bring it back. Mm. Do you know a better model?
That's a good model.
No, I mean, it's what Fletcher Priest is trying to do.
Exactly. There's no better model. And I think you're going to see more and more of that. The flooring industry, when I was at Interface, we were able to recycle carpet, take the nylon, shave it off, turn it back into fiber, take the back end, crumb it up, put it back in. So you reduced how much raw material you have to buy. Your profitability margins go up immediately because people are turning the product back in.
Do you think that there's a
Right.
way to do that when it's not based around profitability? Like, would these companies wouldn't do that if it wouldn't affect their bottom line?
Some would, some would not. I think that they figured out that it
Yeah.
does, and for business that makes sense.
Mhm.
Nature does it for
Yeah.
free.
But I mean, is that
Everything in
the way to
nature
get this done? Is like there has to be some sort of business viability, sustainability, profitability with it in order to get most people to sign. Like even from a personal perspective, right? I just feel like everyone is concerned about me. Like the quote that you just said, and if we unpack that more, but like everyone is so focused today on what benefits me and not anyone down the line from me.
I would say yes and no. I don't know anyone who say I want to do the wrong
Yeah.
thing. People morally want to do the right thing. I think the problem is that we don't express the right thing. All people are concerned about is, can I get it for cheap? Here's the ultimate in sustainability for me. I had a lady one time ask me, she said, "Hey, I want a product that's made from something that can decompose at the end of its life. I can just go put it in the ground and it'll do just fine, but I want it to last for 100 years." I says, "Well, good luck."
Yeah.
That's not feasible because the types of chemicals you have to put in something to make it last for as long as you want to are worse than actually just buying the bad material. So like people want a silver bullet and it's not
Yeah.
such. Like if you think about the way nature functions, like you don't want a tree to fall, but you know one day it's going to fall. You don't want flowers to die, but you know that they're going to die. You don't want certain types of animals to get captured. You don't want Bambi to get eaten by a tiger in the jungle, but it happens. Like it's nature's way. But one of the things that we don't think about as human beings is that we're a part of nature. We're not disconnected from it.
Mhm.
Challenge is we disconnect ourselves from it. And then that's when the mindset of it's got to be something in it for me, because now we're disconnected from where we originally started, which was connected to nature. If we were still connected the way we used to, I think the book that I read a couple months ago, The Last Child in the Woods, it talked about how we used to drink water from a stream. We knew the difference between the ones you could drink from and the ones you couldn't. You know, we knew how to plant stuff. We knew how to go out and find stuff. We knew which berries you could eat. We know you don't know that anymore. Like everybody's kind of like you just kind of out there like, if I get lost in the woods, I don't know about that one, right? But it's really interesting to see that we have become people who depend on like if it's nothing in it for me, I'm not going to
Yeah.
do it, right?
Mhm.
But the mindset should be is that I want to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. It's a moral compass that we have, and that's what companies are beginning to impose. And I think that those things are why people choose certain companies. I think that people choose companies because one, they're going to do things the right way. Two, they've got leaders who are smart and innovative and creative, and they're going to bring things. And three, we're going to make things that are beautiful enough for people to be able to receive. And that's one of the reasons I went to Andersen is that the culture of the people were there were amazing, the type of work that they were doing. And it's the first time that I've worked for a company that was privately held and not governed by like quarterly like guidelines. And I think that for me, that was like a revealing, refreshing thing. And their CEO and leadership was amazing when I went there. And it was one of the reasons that I wanted to be at this organization. And I'm having fun while I'm there. But
Do you think the mindset of, hey, like, does this work for me? And I feel that so many of our decisions today are driven by cost and convenience, whether it frees you up just because life's so chaotic and nobody has time and everything's so expensive that you need to spend your time working and multiple income households and everything else. And it's like, we'll pay for convenience a lot of times over anything else. Do you think that there's companies that are using like ethical responsibility and sustainability? Everyone wants to do the right thing, but so often the right thing costs us more money. So we go
yeah,
to convenience or we go to price because that's just what fits our program now. Like, what if a company like Apple were using this system to drive the price of the phone down? Like, to me, that winds up being the sustainable approach rather than using this system to create a better bottom line.
I think it's both. I think you don't give the businesses enough credit. I think that you have an obligation morally to do the right thing, but I also think that business is in business to do business, right? I don't think it should be one of those things where you should not be changing the industry is what Apple is doing, in my opinion. So I think that what drives down the cost of the iPhone is other phones that are start to do the same thing because they see it as a model for success. It is like, how do I change the industry and switch the industry to doing something different rather than just switching this one individual competitor? That's the competitiveness of business. Like if someone else comes out, if I call it the Bandy phone and I do the same thing, now all of a sudden Apple has to acknowledge like, hey, there's another company out here, so I can't, you know what I mean? Like I can't just charge what I want. I've got to be competitive because they're capturing margin share. That's what happened to, one of the reasons Apple is so successful is because the Palm Pilot wouldn't change. The Palm Pilot was the first phone I knew that was here today, gone tomorrow. Right? They had the technology to go digital first and they chose not to do it. And so because Apple and Samsung and some of the others went before they did, and Google and some of the others came before they did, they ended up losing out. And by the time they tried to make adjustments, their pivot wasn't strong enough. That's what you call in business hitting the wall, right? There's a sustainable wall and there's a business wall. The sustainable wall is one that like there's a decline in living systems, so you got to figure out how to keep your supply chain viable, right? And then there's an increase in population, affluence, and technology that this is your apex, right? And you've got to try to stay in that middle. You could have some type of social bad thing where you do the wrong thing morally or you mistreat employees and then everybody goes like, oh my, we're not following them anymore. Then boom, that's called hitting the wall, right? Or you do the wrong thing and make a bad business decision on your supply chain and that supplier can't give you enough of whatever it is that you need to supply. Boom, and you hit the wall because now you either got to raise your price or you don't have materials or the quality of your product gets worse. That's called hitting the wall, right? You can hit it environmentally or you can hit it based on the norms that are accepted by people. I think that there's a combination of the two. I think we don't give business enough credit to have the responsibility to make quality products because to me, the best product is the one that you don't have to change out as much. So for windows and doors and buildings and homes, if you can put material in that lasts for 50, 100 years, that's the right decision because you don't have to change it anymore, right? And it gives you the lifetime of what it's supposed to provide inside of that. So as a modern craftsman, what I would do is like have that as a mindset. Like, could I buy this cheap door or this? Yeah. But I already know that in 7 years, I'm gonna have to replace it. So like, is that the right decision? So I paid 2 times as much for this door as I could have paid maybe 10% more for a quality one. And I think that that's where businesses who are successful have the best impact is that they have a model that says that their product has credibility in the marketplace. It performs the way it's supposed to perform. It's innovative and creative. It gives the flexibility for what it needs, and it provides all of the things that you need and has a warranty that matches. Those are the things that I think matter to people. The price will stay down if you do things the right way.
I would argue, George, like the price stays down if you do things the right way over the course of a long period of time. The issue that I think our industry faces is that it's so short-sighted. So,
I think that's our industry, but everything.
And I'm speaking, this has been my industry my whole life, right? So I look at, just the prioritization of in what I would consider to be the wrong things in home building. And it's, I had this conversation with a client years ago, and he wanted to build this amazing house. We priced it; it was $8 million, and he said, "My budget's $3.5 million, so I'm going to find a guy that can just build a shittier version of this because I don't really care about the quality." And I thanked him because I appreciated him being upfront. But I was like, this is what's wrong is that we're prioritizing the comps. We're prioritizing the fact that it has to be so many square feet. And it's all these metrics that, and you can peel it back further and further, but it's that 7-year door. It's like, sure, I'm going to put the $300 door in and it will last 7 years. But you know what? At least I built a bigger house and I was able to sell it for more money. Yeah. And I mean, and like that is everything I'm against, and it's what we are building and what we are developing, and it's we're building very expensive homes, but those decisions that you're mentioning, like the stuff that lasts 100 years, 200 years, I mean, those are the decisions that we made. And when it came to quality of materials, we paid a lot of money for really, really high quality materials, but they're materials that should be in that home forever, and they're not. Yeah. They aren't these temporary decisions. And I find it so disheartening, truthfully,
it's disheartening.
That like the priority is build the house, make it as big as possible, put in what is required for kitchen cabinets because they're going to buy it and they're going to rip them out anyway and do their own thing. And I understand from a quote unquote business aspect, like how that is profitable and how that is what they would deem successful. But when you do zoom out and you look at this holistically, like what you're doing, the waste that goes into these projects for the optics of it, strictly the optics. Like, I just need to know where the kitchen is. Okay, I'll spend 30 grand and put cabinets in. Okay, now I know where it is. Rip them out. But that is the world that we live in.
And you know what's really ironic about that is that you guys know this more than I do. Every major city has a community where the homes were built right. Mm-hmm. And the value of those homes just continues to just go crazy up, right? So I think long-term, people don't visualize it. And so like you have people who are in the business of what I'm calling building for Airbnb sales, mm-hmm. right? They build, they Airbnb, and then when it gets old, they tear down and they rebuild, and they Airbnb, and then when it gets old, they tear down and rebuild and Airbnb. So what they don't recognize is that you are spending more. It's just over a longer period of time, mm-hmm. right? And if you built it right the first time, you would maximize your profit because you built it right. You don't have to go back in and change. You don't have to worry about the energy efficiency. You don't have to worry about the HVAC going out. You don't have to worry about using so much energy because your home is already energy efficient. You don't have to worry about replacing the windows because you hear the wind whistling when you walk by the window. You don't have to worry about like security and those types of issues because you bought durable products. And I think that you're absolutely correct. Sometimes people sacrifice what they consider short-term profitability, but it is another version of privatizing the wealth and then socializing the risk, mm-hmm. because all of the stuff that you tore out went to somebody's landfill. It's going to stay in there a long time because it's materials that were made from plastics and metals and aluminums and steels and all these things together that are going to last for a long time. But of course, you don't want it in your backyard. So you have the responsibility and the obligation of now replacing it with new stuff, and that extends it. So it is a ongoing cycle that we see. But I will say that we're starting to see more and more commercial and residential builders beginning to think longer term for a lot of different reasons, right? Especially commercial builders, because think about this. You're in Boston. MIT is one of my favorite places to go because they're one of the smartest people on the planet, right? And so is Rutgers. Rutgers is a great school too. But when are they moving? When is Rutgers moving? When is MIT moving? They're going up and say, you know what, we're going to go down the street. So they should be building for 200-year buildings,
yeah.
Right?
What a great insight. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Corporations who have that same, where are they going? If you're building a headquarters, right? You should be building a 200-year building. And the reason you should build a 200-year building is because you don't have a reason to want to change. So when I see people building campuses, they should be thinking of the mindset of this building's going to be here for 200 years, period. Yeah. Right? It is my corporate headquarters. And if we're going to sustain ourselves as a business, that's what we want to do, right? Institutions of higher learning, businesses, communities inside. Like if you go to certain communities in certain areas, you know them. Like when you go to certain, you kind of like, yeah, that's it. That's what I want to move to that area because it doesn't have a lot of turnover. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get in. Houses don't come open over there. But those homes are built the way that they're built for a reason. And so I think that you're starting to see more and more people make these type of investments, but there's also a lot more and more of the cookie cutter homes, right? People are just going out, clear cutting, and then coming back, sticking this branch out front and wondering why the houses are so high,
Branch.
right? They plant a branch right in front, right?
Like I guess the biggest struggle, and I don't think that this is unique to our industry, but you have to balance the longevity, the durability, the sustainability of a product or a business with the affordability up front. Like, because I think that's what most people are struggling with today. And the easiest way for me to equate that is you could buy a $500 pair of boots and get them resold, and they're going to last you 10, 15 years, or you could buy a $200 pair of boots that are throwaway that you're replacing every year, right? So it's costing you way less. But with the affordability of everything today, from homes to interest rates to what we're making to just the cost of living, it's so difficult for people to say, well, I could get something for 200 and I have to replace it again next year, but I just can't afford to pay 600 right now, even if it's going to last me longer. And I think that that's how we've wound up in this throwaway commoditized society, where it's harder and harder to prove the value of something that's more durable. And it's also like, what else is part of that product, right? So Andersen makes windows. Now, how are we addressing the envelope? How are we addressing the interior to ensure that our window is not the strongest link in that entire system that's going to become compromised because of the other weak links that are attached to it? And I think that like we experienced that just with the competitive nature of our industry, where I would say that Nick and myself are probably this smaller microcosm of the entire industry, where people want something durable, they want something quality, but what about the rest of America, the rest of the world, who it's like, we just need affordability. And it's not even affordability. Like I look at affordability of how long this is going to last you, what's the return on it, what's it worth. But a lot of people are just like, we need this today. And we can't afford to pay for something that we're going to recoup 10, 15 years down the road. And I think that is like the secret sauce to me, where we can create a product that most people can afford. And I like, one question I have for you with regard to, you're speaking to like affluence, and there's more affluence in the world today, is that, or at least in our country, is that from like a numbers perspective, just the volume of money, or is it more people above a median income, or what's that looking like? Because I feel like the polarization between people making money and being able to afford these things and people who aren't is like, there's a more polarizing difference between them now.
I'm going to speak for George Bandy. I'm not going to speak for Andersen in that response. What I'm going to tell you is, I watch people buy stuff that they can't afford all the time. I think that's the ironic thing for me. Somebody would say, I want to, and our values are so off. We don't want to invest in a home that we're going to live in and raise our family in and do well in, but we want to go buy $300 tennis shoes.
Or they want to spend the money on the house, like, oh, this kitchen is amazing, that sink fixture was amazing, but like all of the envelope and the details and the comfortability of your home. So like, people will spend on what people see on the outside, but not what, like, that's what they find value in.
And it's one of those things where, right, like, I'm always astonished. So I'll start with this. So I have daughters that have graduated college, right?
When did you have kids? When you were like 10?
Bro, I promise you, I've got 4 and they are expensive. But I have one daughter who graduated. She went to UGA. She graduated from medical school at Howard, and now she's working at Emory. She just bought her first home. Beautiful home, Andersen Windows. She did a really good job. But when she got her home, I asked her, I said, well, what can I give you as a home gift? And she said, I want a Gucci purse. And I said, what? I was like, I'm buying furniture because it's the same
Yeah.
price, right? Like, I'm not doing that. But like the fact that that was, you see what I'm saying? Like her sense of accomplishment was, I want something that I want.
Mm.
And even when I asked her about why she wanted a Gucci purse, she says, because it'll last for forever and it gives me a lifetime warranty. And she didn't want a coat. She didn't want like one of that. She wanted a Gucci purse. But what I decided to do was go buy her some Ashley furniture, which has the same warranty and can do. You see what I'm saying? Like there was but the mindset was, I want something that I want right now. Like you're saying, no, you can't afford it, but like I'm gonna get dad to get it, but so I can have it and have like this status thing, but like not thinking about the stuff that needed to go in the home
Mhm.
after you purchased the home. So like I think that the generation has like evolved to like have this optics of, and I think social media has
Yeah.
contributed to that. I
Yeah.
think like people having connection in ways that we didn't have connection when I was growing up. We had pagers. We didn't have like a laptop in our hand. So like everybody has access to global connectivity to what other people are doing. And I think that has changed the economies of scale too, because you can buy from almost anywhere and get stuff shipped and transitioned and moved. And you don't have a way to measure quality or value until it gets there. So there's lots of things that people buy, and once they get it, they're kind of like, man, I spent this money, now I can't send it back, it's not really valuable, I'm just going to make it work, right? And so like those are also things that happen. But to connect more with like homes and like people, and bro, there's a huge gap of economic distance in the United States and in other countries, where there are people, I mean, there are more homeless people than we've ever pictured before, in my opinion, from what I've seen. But there's also a wider range of like economic feasibility for people who rent rather than own, or purchase with lease with option to buy. Like there's multiple ways to get to where you need to be. I think a lot of it is just lack of knowledge, and people are making what I call emotional decisions without doing homework and thinking through what it is that they really need. It's more of a emotionally driven decision than, and it's all because people are stimulated differently now, and there's much more available for people to be stimulated by, and that creates a lot of the challenges. And I think that that's going to be an issue. But I also think that there are people who are recognizing when there's hardships, like, man, I should have probably made some different decisions, or, hey, I probably need to make a different investment. But I don't think that we're going to have a shortage of people who want to buy homes. I don't think we're going to have a shortage of people. I mean, I just don't think we're going to have that. I think that there'll be some ebbs and flows based on people getting nervous, based on the economic status. But I really do think that people are beginning to recognize that stability is going to be critically important going into this next phase of
I
10
think
years, in
people
my
are
opinion.
also looking for like the short-term validation when it is so difficult right now, even for people 30 and under to purchase a
Yeah.
home, right? So it's like, well,
All right.
if I can't have a home, then at least I want a nice car. And it's
Yep.
like, well, you just spent $100,000 on a car where you should have spent that on a house. But like realistically, they can't script in their head how they're going to afford a home. And as you said, so much of that does come from social media and everyone's seeing your business. And like I'll be 40 next year. Growing up, I didn't
Whew.
know what my friends' houses looked like unless I went to their house. Like nobody knew what
Bro,
my parents' house looked like.
you look like you about 20, 25. When you said 40, brother, that you stretching
I
it a little
know.
bit.
Well, thank you. I try and eat well and exercise and don't have too much stress in my life. But like everyone knows everyone's business now. Like all of my friends, I can go and Google their house and find out what it's worth and basically figure out what they make. So like everyone is so much more like when I was a kid and my parents were growing up, nobody knew what our house looked like unless you came to my house. Like you didn't know where I
Yep.
lived, you didn't know what my life looked like. And I think that people are trying to keep up with the Joneses now, and it creates I think a lot of economic struggles for people to try and appear as though they've made it, and they're looking for this short term validation rather than
Yeah.
saying, hey, I'm going to invest long term, or I'm going to save up and I'm going to buy the thing that's going to last me 15, 20, 30 years, rather than just have what I want right now and I don't actually really need it.
I think just to add to that, I think when we had Carl Morawski on the podcast and we talked about clothing. So George, it's interesting you bring up the tennis shoes because I think from a clothing perspective, his argument was just buy one. Why do you need 12 different Gucci purses? Why do you need, I mean, you probably have a great suit collection, I'm guessing by what you're wearing today, but like, why do you need 15 different color suits? Or why do you need, and his argument was like, just buy one really good one. And he talks about workwear specifically and like how guys will buy the $100 work boots, but they blow out in 6 months and then they're buying another pair of $100 work boots when you can buy $800 work boots. And they're like, why would I ever do that? It's like, because they will literally last you a decade and all you have to do is resole them a couple times. And it's that initial investment that people have a hard time understanding or seeing the value in it. But then on the flip side, we have this not issue, but we have this ability to access more capital through financing, credit cards, finance. Like, so it's on one hand, it's a great thing because it gives someone the ability to, I mean, I shouldn't say you wouldn't finance a pair of $800 work boots, but for example, like you could finance the $800 pair of work boots, but and allow yourself to have a better work boot that lasts you a really long time. But on the flip side, without like the ability to understand what that financing costs, like on the credit card, it's like, well, you're paying a pretty big percent. Like, are you actually getting your money's worth out of that? So my point there is like, it's a great thing to have the ability to have to purchase things at a higher value for a higher quality. But on the other hand, it's like, well, you also need the financial literacy to understand that, hey, you're making an investment here, and that's not, like that has to be part of the kind of the calculation.
Yeah. I think that there are a lot of dynamics that go into people's decision making when it comes to specific things. I think the more educated they can be going in, the better prepared they will be. Our renewal business is booming, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's been booming over the last 3 or 4 years, and it's basically because people buy homes, windows aren't good, doors aren't good. The renewal people come in, they share the value of what Andersen can offer, and they help them choose a financing model that works for people in their homes, and it works out to be a good business. And I think that is one of the answers to one of the challenges that you guys are speaking about, is like finding ways to ensure the quality of securing a home for an extended period of time. I think the other opportunity is, how do we begin to share more information by raising the bar on expectations and maintaining the integrity of the product, so that the consumer gets the best value that they can from a customer and a consumer that they have a relationship with that adds multiple values. So I always say this: if all things are equal, my job is to make sure that they choose Andersen.
Makes sense.
Or else why am I here? If all things are equal, right? And if things aren't equal, it's my job to also share the value of having a product that extends the life of a home, that makes it more valuable, that makes it more energy efficient. Because if you have a more energy efficient, so I always say this, when you talked about the envelope of the home, the only vacuums on the envelope are the windows and the doors.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you're losing energy or gaining cool. It's one of the two. You're either heat's going out or cool's coming in through the windows and the doors. So the most energy efficient thing that you can do is assure that your windows and doors are of a quality that's needed to keep your energy costs down. And I think as we move forward in the future, there'll be some other technologies that will evolve that will allow you to be more energy efficient, which I don't think the energy bills are going to go down anytime soon.
No.
I think that there's going to be a continual increase in energy costs. And so those are things that you can control. And I think having conversations about how these egresses and entrances control your energy costs for an extended period of time on an annual basis are going to be valuable in a lot of different ways. So yes, you spent 10% more on the windows and doors, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
But you save 25% in your energy and window costs. I mean, your cost on energy bills, gas, lighting, heat. Like those are things that people will recognize and be like, that makes sense. Like I got it, right? And it's only going to incrementally increase. So I think that there's a model that makes sense. It's just a matter of how do you position that and have that conversation?
Well,
I haven't heard anyone say that their energy bill has come down in the last 5 years.
No, not without retrofitting a more efficient
The
envelope.
entire house.
Right. Yeah. It's George. It's funny. I think about this because we talk a lot when we're building a home or trying to sell a home about the energy efficiency. And of course, windows and doors come up in every one of those conversations. And, we oftentimes give them an example where it's like, yeah, we're under construction. We actually don't have heat right now. It's the dead of the winter. And it's like, how's the house so warm? It's like, oh, we have a little space heater over there, but the house is built, to a really high standard. So we have really very little heat loss. The interesting thing that you just made mention of is the energy bills. And I do, this is completely like just my opinion or thought is I feel like energy bills are going to continue to incrementally increase because the demand for that is going to decrease. So like they're not like, from a revenue perspective, right? Like if you're using less energy, naturally their revenue goes down. So they're going to be combating it where it's like instead of paying, X, you're going to be paying X times 2 to make up for the fact that like you're building more and more efficient homes, which I think that's a bigger kind of, political, I guess, issue. But
I don't know. I would counter that by saying population is not decreasing. So they're going to have to build more homes to accommodate more stuff. And that means that they're just going to be building more gas lines and more energy lines.
Yeah. And we're never going to be to a point where, we're going to make these tiny percent increases of not just population, but just improve, like better built homes. The majority, probably upwards of, over 95% of the homes built, I would guess, are still built to a minimum standard.
I agree.
And they're offsetting it, and then they're offsetting it by it's an inexpensive home to buy, and then you're buying it, but then your operating costs are going up
incredibly.
And it's like, well, I thought I was buying this, nice big 5,000 square foot home, but now I can't afford to heat and cool it.
Exactly. And that becomes a huge issue. You see a lot of them on the market, like they're on the market all the time.
I want to actually go back to that because you said that earlier about, I forget what you were talking about specifically about buying something that lasts a really long time, but, I'm sorry, the schools and commercial development. It's interesting because I've always, there's this statistics that says that people will stay in a home for 7 years and then they buy another one. And there's social sides of that, like, school systems where their kids go, where they grow up, like, where their job is, there's all these reasons as to why people move and relocate. But I would argue that generally people are leaving their home because there's something that's just not right about it. It's not comfortable. It's just not comfortable. And that comfortable can be anything, whether it's cold in the winter, it's too hot in the summer, it's too big, it's stuffy, I don't feel good, whatever it is. But it's the product of the fact that they are making these compromises and sacrifices early in the process, whether they're building custom or they're buying something where they're just buying it based on comps. They're buying it based on the size and square footage. They're buying it based on the price. Whatever the case is, they're making those short-term decisions like, well, it's, this is the cheapest option I can buy, so I'm buying this one. And then all of a sudden, 7 years from now, they're like, I can't stand this house. We got to sell this. It's like, well, and I tell clients this all the time, especially on custom building, is just more expensive. Like, it's you're building a custom car or buying one off a manufacturing line. Like that's the difference, right? So when you're building a custom home, people are, the one thing that comes up all the time, it's like, well, I can't overinvest in this. It's like, what does that mean? It's like, well, I can't put more money into this home than I could sell it for. I'm like, so your priority is the resale value? Well, not really, but I have to be in a position where I could dump it if I had to. It's like, you're making a pretty strong decision for something that you plan to stay in for a very long time, And if you compromise now, you're going to end up selling it because you've made the compromise. You didn't get the home that you wanted. And I always bring it back to vehicles where it's like you bought the Mercedes that you came in here with. It's like that thing's depreciating immediately. But you bought it not because it gets you from point A to point B any different than a Toyota did, but you bought it because it's more comfortable. You feel better when you're in it. You have all the comfort that you had desired, and you're not taking that same mentality to a home. Instead, you're playing out this worst case scenario in your head where it's, well, I have to be in a position always that I can dump it and make a profit.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's mindset, right? I just finished restoring my grandfather's '67 Chevrolet Impala, right?
Got to see a photo of that.
Yeah, I'll drop. I got one somewhere, but I'll send it to your email. You just sent me an email. Yeah. A guy says to me, "Man, that car looks great. It's fully restored." And I looked him right now. I was like, "It's never fully restored." This is the gift that keeps on giving, brother. Like that's it. One, you can't find parts. Two, something's gonna go wrong. Three, it's never fully restored. Yeah. And it's always interesting to have a conversation when people think that they can go and buy something or find something that's not fully done. Like, I don't have the mentality to go buy a home that says unfinished basement. What? Like, why would I do that? Right? Like, I'm going to pay, and then I'm going to have to pay on top of that to finish it. I'd rather just have the builder like, hey, I'm going to buy this. What would it cost for me to go ahead and include this into the price to have the basement finished? Like, it doesn't, like, those are things to me that don't make sense. But like to other people, it's like, I'd rather have an unfinished basement to pay less. And then you're going to pay more when you finish the basement anyway. So it's like, it's cost versus value.
Yeah.
Right. They're two different things. Like, people think that a cost, like, hey, give me bare bones, right? Not knowing what bare bones really means. It means that you're just going to pay for it later over a period of time. And so, like, I think that one of the key components of sustainability is durability, quality, performance, delivery, effectiveness, responsibility. Like, those are things that people overlook as it relates to sustainability. They immediately go to environmental and other things. Like, that's not, if you're doing things right and building them the right way for the right reasons for the right customer, and those things scale based on what the customer's needs are, right? And if you provide those things in an appropriate way, you will be successful as a business because you're doing things the right way for the right reasons. And the sustainability is just a side bag of that. Isn't it? It's the way that your culture is built. And that's one of the things. And I've had the privilege of working at companies that did it that way. Probably the most hectic company that I worked for and probably caused me the most consternation was the one that I left, Amazon, right? It's just because the nature of the business is so, what's next? Next. And like, after a while, that kind of wears you out. People who live there and stay there, they love it. For me, it was more of a, can I take the skills that I was able to perfect at the University of Texas in Houston, at Interface, and at Mohawk? And I asked myself, will this work at a company like Amazon? And I wanted to prove it to myself, and I did. And after I proved it, I was like, that's enough of that, right?
Do you think that, like, to be specific, do you think that Amazon is doing too much too quickly to actually implement a sustainable practice?
I think that Amazon has made every business recognize that they can do something.
Okay.
I think when it was just little small businesses, like the little clothing company in California, I don't want to try to give too many commercials in here. Or if it was the, the Interface, I try to talk about the ones that I've worked for, or like these little small companies that were doing sustainability stuff, right? People were kind of like, it's okay, but does it really work for big business, right? And I think Amazon, Apple, and Google made it okay for big business to say, hey, this really does work for big business.
Okay.
So it's not just one of those things. And I think people needed to see that over a period of time. I think that Amazon is doing an amazing job. And I know Kara Hurst personally, and she's an amazing individual and does things from the heart, that they're pushing the envelope on the things that they can control and then stretching the things that are beyond their control in ways that are different too. So all the things don't work for everyone, but I think that by demonstrating that it makes sense for businesses of their scale, it does then speak to other businesses in their space to say, hey, there's a place for you in this as well, which was 10 years ago, you didn't exist. It did not exist. I mean, you had to go, you would buy your soap and stuff from seventh generation, right? I remember a time before Whole Foods where at a 7-Eleven, you couldn't even get fruit, right? Now you get fruit anywhere. I remember you couldn't get ground chicken and ground turkey at Kroger and Publix. Now you can get it at any grocery store because another grocery store started showing you the value of having what you talked about earlier, healthier foods, that fresh vegetables. Like you get more people going to the vegetable stand now and then going to get their meats and groceries from other places. Like those are things that I feel like Amazon and Whole Foods did by making it viable for people to be able to get it. And therefore, the other stores in the industry had to change their trajectory in order to compete and be able to have, think about farm to table restaurants. What? Every restaurant in the 70s was a farm to table restaurant, right? This has just now come full circle because people are recognizing that, hey, this is attractive and people want farm to table and they want fresh vegetables and they want name somebody who says, hey, give me the chemically laced canned stuff. Like, that's what I want. Give me that.
But what's the buy-in here? How are you tying that and the buy-in from I want to do the right thing to the corporate mentality? Aside from just the numbers, right? Because like you said, we all want to do the right thing. And I'm thinking of it from my perspective and what I sell to clients as well. And I have to have more of an angle money matters, but also what's the buy-in? What are they investing in? Why should they pay more to do the right thing? So from a corporate mentality and mindset with what you do for a living, what do you need to convince them of from a sustainability perspective where it's not just, hey, this is more profitable or more efficient for you, but this is how it's going to help your business? How are we getting these numbers driven entrepreneurial people to buy into sustainability outside of just the numbers?
So a couple things. One, in 9 months, just by looking at our manufacturing facilities, on the shop floor by making small adjustments in recycling materials, $800,000 in 9 months. I've been here for 12. 800,000 in 9 months. You tell me somebody who doesn't recognize that as a business value. Because now you're taking away what used to be waste and you're using it as food because you're learning how to recycle it and you're making adjustments on how people make windows and doors differently so you don't have as much waste, and you're using that waste to add value to the business, which is quality, because that's what they should be focused on, and durability and purpose. If the employees are focused on those things, the windows are going to be better and the doors are going to be better when they come out of the plant because we're equipping them with the tools to be more efficient at the plant floor. That's one on the business side, internally. I think two is that a more powerful employee who sees the purpose of an organization working all together to do the right thing. I think that consumers recognize that. And I think enough of that becomes contagious and it becomes one of those competitive advantages, and people can feel it and see that your organization is doing the right thing. Second part. I think the third part is that long term, when you're making these investments to grow and you have a growth strategy for the business, if you do this math, right? In 9 months, if I say 800,000, working with the team, doing cross-pollinated things, working inside of the plant, looking at those things, and you have a growth trajectory to go from, let's say, 1 million to 10 million, what's going to happen? You're going to have more waste because you're making more stuff. And the more efficient you can become at getting that waste and using it inside of the process, profitability, savings, eliminating waste, making it more effective, getting more quality people inside, more innovation, more creativity. Those are the things that make businesses great. Those are the values that you put out there. So to a consumer, this was just internal customers inside of a business. To a consumer, when a consumer sees that, they see that as, hey, if this business is paying attention to the details of those types of things and those things are valuable to them, eliminating things and diverting things from the landfill is important. Also having investments in nature and looking at renewable energy as a source and doing all of these things to reduce the cost, that's going to stabilize the cost of my product and also improve the value of what it is that I'm getting, which gives you a more durable product that performs a lot better. You can focus more on energy efficiency and innovations that make things more efficient, which makes the products last longer and perform a lot better for that customer. And that's the objective, is to continue to focus on the things that bring value to the customer and not focused on the things that are distractions from actually improving the business. And sustainability gives you the opportunity to look at the holistic view. The final part of that for me is end of life disposition. So how do we start looking at the products that we've placed out there at the end of their life, 50 years, 100 years from now? Are we already thinking about how we bring those products back and use them as part of the new products that come out? So letting the waste become food inside of some of those products, thinking about innovations that allow us to be able to do these things more effectively. And like all of these things add value for short-term, mid-term, customer base, and long-term. So sustainability is not just one sliver. Sustainability is an attribute of the culture of the business. So it has to interject in every aspect, including touching the customer appropriately.
So I would assume that you have some familiarity with like all the push with building science and the way that they're making homes tighter, and windows aside, right? Because the glazing has changed, some of the window technology has changed, yes, but like a window is a window. Yeah, it's a potential for air leaking, but like there's not as much changing. You can go to triple glazed windows,
Yeah.
insulated panels. There's not as much changing with them as with like the entire building industry with building science. And from a sustainability perspective, something I guess I would just curious to your take on this. We are complicating the way that houses are being built in the name of like environmental preservation and sustainability. And I look at it from the vantage point of durability, product testing, the amount of resources that go into a project, and I look big picture, and it's like, right, we want better insulated homes and we want tighter homes, but that requires more materials. It requires more manufacturing. It requires more employees, more labor to build these houses. Even just like, right, we're air sealing and taping every seam now. And it's like you have to pay how many people to get in their trucks and drive to work every day to consume more resources to do that, more manufacturing of those materials, more foams, more adhesives, more tapes. It seems as though big picture, we may not like the change may actually not be a change for the better. Like, are we consuming more resources in order to gain a little bit more energy efficiency on the back end? Like, big picture, what does that look like? And I understand from a window perspective, it's very straightforward. But just like what we're doing and the amount of money and resources it takes to build a house to like the standard that they're setting forth right now, to me seems as if it's more of like a legislation move than an actual sustainability.
I would say a couple things. One, part of the reason it's that way is because individual building materials contributors are just now starting to think that the building is a system, both interior and exterior. And it's been difficult to quantify what constitutes a perfectly sealed
Mm-hmm.
home for long periods of time. Perfect example. in commercial buildings, every building used to have asbestos. Why? Well, because it was the only fire retardant that we had. We didn't have sprinkler systems. But the evolution of sprinkler systems came about as a result of people recognizing, oh, we put this in here to protect the building, but we didn't think about its impact on people's health, right? Now they're balancing people's health inside of a home or a building or a construction site with the types of materials that you use, right? You don't want to recycle asbestos and put it back into a home that you're building for residential, even though people say they won't, quote unquote, recycle content. I think people are becoming more knowledgeable of the balance between health, wellness, and a good built home, a home that's being built smart. I think we were just not paying attention in the Industrial Revolution to the impact on people or how things were built. And we're just starting to get smart about how we do that. And that's what's causing a little bit of the consternation. But I do think that the innovations and the way that this has driven business to at least have industries begin to think differently around how fast concrete slabs dry and adding more fly ash into them to get them to dry faster so you can build sooner, to creating woods that are more durable and treated appropriately so that you don't have to work. Like, I think that this has moved the needle. And I would agree with you that it's almost like this. So I was around, I'm the chairman of GBCI. I was the chairman of USGBC in 2013 when LEED was in its infancy. What I saw at the beginning of USGBC was architects, designers, and developers, as soon as LEED came out, they jacked their prices up. Was it right? Hell no. People were charging you for the knowledge that they had that no one else had. I'm gonna walk somewhere here. The problem with that is it's privatizing the wealth, socializing the risk, right? Here's the challenge. I was building a building at UT Houston Health Science Center. Reeves Taylor, who's now at Gensler, Brian Yeoman, who recently passed. We were building the nurse healthing school, the health nurse school at UT Houston. You know what we did? We wrote inside of our RFI and RFP, we wrote the LEED requirements without calling them LEED. Nobody paid attention. Mm-hmm. They bid the same price, not paying attention, right? So every time somebody asked me that, I was like, put it in the contract. I guarantee they're not looking at it.
It's like when you book a wedding, just tell them you're having a party.
They're not going to read it, right? Now they are, but like then they weren't reading it. They just like, I want to bid on it. What's the price? What did it in their head? And then they got in there and started reading. Oh, it's got to meet this coefficient. It's got to have this kind of. All of a sudden now you can negotiate better, right? I think that a lot of the local codes and a lot of the local legislation around LEED, well, living, building, and those things around residential is going to drive the market, because the market around the best built environmental homes and those things has shifted. And there's been a smooth transition to a lot of that, but there's been a lot of rough transitions too, related to like how hard it is to kind of do things like seal and the types of foams that you can use and those types of things. But I would agree that over the next 5 years, this is just George Bandy's assessment from 2013 to now, that those costs will come down because of the competitiveness of people. And I will think that also the automation and innovation of the technology that's out there to build a home. You go in Walmart now, how many people working at the
so annoying. Well, it's so annoying that they don't have people.
Man, you walk in there, nobody says hi. All you see is the greeter on your way out, right? Like you go in, you get your own stuff. But I think that there's automation that's happening inside of some of these places that are building the fiberglass, the walls, and those things. And as those things get better and they get tuned in a little bit more, then I think that it will stabilize a little bit of the cost, because the product will come to you better and you won't have to put as much labor into it. Those are my thoughts. Those are my wishes. Those are my hopes. Is it happening fast enough? No. But if you ask someone who's building a home in Costa Rica versus somebody building a home in the US, two different things, right? Their struggles are totally different, but they also have more carpenters and plumbers that really understand how to do the work there than we have here in the States as well. So like, I think that there's going to be a meeting of the minds. I just don't know how soon, and I think that there's a lot of things going on now that cause some consternation with that
Yeah,
as
and I
well.
guess the like struggle for me there is the efficiencies that you're creating. Are you using them as a way to be more competitive or to increase your margins, or both, right? Because we live, like, in our industry, it's a cutthroat industry. It's very price driven. It's very competitive. And there are most contractors who struggle day to day to make a living and to make their rate and to make the right amount of money, which is setting a really low baseline for what the industry standard is. So it's like, are we creating these efficiencies and using these products just to come in at a lower price and be more competitive? Or is this possibly just to increase our bottom line? Like, is Walmart not putting people in the checkout line to increase their profit margins, or is that to come in at a lower price point?
I think it's both with them. That's a whole week. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast,
But
brother.
I mean, to me, it's all tied together, right? And it's even like where somebody wants us to spend, somebody wants our price to be lower, so we're going and we're looking at different HVAC systems that cost less money, and that's just for the initial cost. That's so that the first number that they pay, just like pulling out the finished basement, is less money, when long term it's going to cost them more, because that HVAC system is going to need servicing more. It's going to run more often. It's not going to be as efficient. It's going to need to get replaced sooner. And it's like, are these the concessions that we're putting in place to create a price point that's more palatable for our customers? Is this all just coming at a cost to us? And I think that so much of this is tied to sustainability and doing the right thing, and ensuring that you're creating a business that not only serves your clients, but serves your own needs emotionally, financially. I think it's all tied together. And it's actually overwhelmingly tied together when I think and I sit here and I listen to you talk, because I'm like, this affects everything, like everything.
Yeah. And I do think that there's definitely a balance. And I would say that the desire is to create the best product for the customer and the consumer at the economies
Yeah.
of scale. Do I think that every product is going to meet every tier? Probably not. I think that there's going to always be tiers to homes, right? It would be like, so I used this analogy the other day, and I think I spooked the people at Andersen, but I was like, would I put a triple pane window in a grass hut?
Yeah.
No. Right. So I think that you have to try to find a balance between, your consumer sweet spot, so to speak, of what it is that your customer base would be.
That's what's
I think
being sold today, and it's something that I just take issue with, where it's like, how much are we making people pay to say that this is the way that you have to do things? Like, what comes to mind, what you said about the window, it's like, people now with exterior sheathing want to be using insulated window bucks. So when you're framing with a foam insulation or a foam panel, like a plywood sheath panel with foam on it for exterior continuous insulation, that the window buck that the window is getting attached to should be insulated as well. And it's like, the R value or loss of that 1.5 by 1.5 piece of lumber, and the amount of money and resources that it takes to create these window bucks in a factory, like, the diminishing returns are that it doesn't make any sense. And it's like,
not financial.
if you're that concerned, don't put windows in your house. Or
Right.
don't put doors in your house. Just have it be a box. If you're that concerned that you want your clients to pay this much money to put an insulated window buck in, when you have 5.5 extra inches of wood behind that, to me, that's where it gets crazy. And it's like, what are we doing? Is this all in the name of like the optics of environmental consciousness and sustainability?
I don't know if that. I don't even know if that's environmental consciousness. I think that some of that is
Yeah.
overkill, and I think that also Some of it is lack of sophisticated coating, because there are some places I would use a thermoplastic based window. Some places I would use an aluminum based window. I think that those are all like giving the variety of options, which is what one of the things I love about Andersen. It gives options on the types of solutions that fit specific communities, neighborhoods, homes. Like there are places where I wouldn't put certain things because of it's 100 degrees
Right.
75% of the
Yeah.
time. There are other places where I wouldn't put certain things because it's 30 degrees, 75% of the time. So I think that one of the things that I love about the way Andersen has approached it is that they have a wide variety of materiality, thicknesses, thinnesses. And here's the crazy thing is that and I know you feel this more than anybody. Every homeowner thinks that they're an interior designer or an exterior designer. They watch 3 or 4 shows with the Property Brothers. Now, all of a sudden, everybody thinks that they can design a home. Hey, you know what? I want a window right here. You know what? Guess what? Change my mind. Let's move that window over to the other side. And I want a chimney right there. And you know what? Now I want a double door. I don't want a single door. Not thinking about the impact that it has on the entire home. But I think that creates a little bit of the and the angst related to like how we design. And so I do like the breadth and the variety of materials. But to answer your question, I think that we are at a tipping point where that is beginning to flatten
Yeah,
out. Because I
I would hope
don't
so.
think that historically when homes were being built, that people really thought about efficiency. They thought about making homes because there was a desire. We just came out of an era maybe 4 or 5 years ago where you couldn't make enough houses. So I think people were just like, let's get them up, get them out, 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 right? I think that now people are thinking about, okay, now that things have kind of slowed down, what can we do better? How do we do that? And I think that companies are investing back into their companies to create more quality and more options for different types of builders. And like as the builders have tiers, I think that there are products that need to have tiers as well to be able to provide solutions at each one of those tiers that are economically feasible to fit into those cost budgets.
So I have something that is relatively off topic from like this conversation, but Nick and I had a conversation last week where we're going to have guests on. There's going to be hard things to talk about and things that maybe we typically don't dive into. But being that you expanded on this question and like it's something that I recently am dealing with my own family and everything else, like we ask you one of the most difficult things that you've ever done professionally in your life. And you said that it was continuing to lead professionally after the loss of your father. And as hard as that conversation may be, I think that it's a really valuable one to dig into, not only for myself, like my wife just lost her dad 2 weeks ago, and like trying to navigate not only the emotional trauma that caused for me, because I can handle that, but seeing my wife go through it, seeing my mother-in-law go through it, seeing my 2 daughters go through it, sometimes it's really hard to understand how to move ahead and how to continue with life and how to show up every single day as the best person of yourself. So I think just some insight and some story behind that as to how you continue and how you've dealt with that grief and how that's possibly made you stronger or made you a better version of yourself.
I would say that it absolutely has. I think you get two choices in that situation, right? You can dwell on the loss or you can build a legacy. Those are the only two choices that you have, right? And one of the things, my father was a Baptist minister and also the House of Representatives for District 83 in Alabama, State House Rep. And he filed a lawsuit to create the seat and then died in that seat, right? So his legacy is established. I think for me, what has really motivated me was all the values, the norms, the types of quality, the things that he stood for. How do I best represent that and represent the best of what he was in my day-to-day walk? And how do I exemplify that by doing things the right way, living my life in certain types of facets, maintaining and providing resources to people who need them, looking for end of life disposition so where I'm not privatizing wealth and socializing risk, creating opportunities for me to educate and share and lift as I climb. Those are all things that he stood for. And I think that the grief part leaves when you decide that they wouldn't want to be here if they could at this point, because the experience that they're having now is way more euphoric than what we're experiencing today. And for me, that's been the transition, right? Like, I can't go back and recreate that. But what I can do is build on the legacy that he created and try to give it to as many people as I can. I try to share as much love and as much positivity as I can. Negative energy is so easy to create, right? I try not to dwell in negative places very long. They come, they're part of business. There's always conflict, consternation in those things. And in those moments, it's almost like he appears and says, how do you make this better?
Yeah.
Don't leave this as it is. How do you create a pathway for good rather than creating a pathway for confusion? And those are things that for me are my avenues to demonstrate through my relationship with him, sharing who he was, and being his namesake doesn't make it any
Yeah.
easier. So it's always a
What
good.
that like evolution of grief or like your new normal and getting to that point, was that something that you were like you intentionally made the decision, I'm going to let go of this, I'm going to give this up, I'm going to, there's a fork in the road, I'm going to go this way or that way? Or was it time? Was it a combination of both? Like there's a quote that I've known forever where it's like time heals what reason cannot. Is it
No,
just that like things have to take shape?
brother, listen, I'll be driving down the street, let my windows down. My dad smokes cigars, right? And somebody in the car next to me will be smoking a cigar, and I mean tears start
Yeah.
streaming. You don't know why. You can't picture it. Or I'll go somewhere and I'll see a campaign sign, and out of nowhere I'll just tear up, or I'll hear a song that he loves. So it never goes away, but that's part of why it makes it so good when you're doing all these things. Like, you can't lose that. That's what gives you the fire to continue to move forward. So embrace that. Don't let that go, because that is what it is. It's almost like they're speaking to you in that way, right? Sometimes you run into things that actually motivate you around specific things. And so I embrace those things. Like, one of the things he used to love to do is, he didn't like the golf course because he liked to play golf. He liked the golf course because he loved to see nature and the way it rolled out across the golf course. I don't play golf, but I'll go out and walk a golf course just because it gives me that. And one of his favorite quotes, and I didn't understand this until later. He said, son, I know you like corporate America. He said, but can you tell me one person that created something life-changing or innovative inside a cubicle in an office? And I'm like, damn, no. He says most people are either outside, on a hike, on a boat, in nature. They're connected to something greater than themselves, which gives them the capability of seeing something different. So, like, I always, every day I get outside, rain, snow, sleet, or shine, because I want to be connected to see that I'm a small part of a bigger
Yeah.
world. And like, you owe, right? You don't get to come here, live, exist, and just kind of be. You also have to leave something behind. You have to give something to future generations. And I think, like, when you build a home, there'll probably be nothing greater than your kids to come back and say, my dad built those.
Yeah.
See them standing and see people living in them and see little kids, and like, to see that, totally different. Like, for them to be able to say, my dad built these neighborhoods, and now there's these many people that have come through these neighborhoods that are now building a community, living in school, going to college, creating pathways, functioning in corporate America. What I would love to know, and this is something, this is a free one, I'd love for y'all to figure this one out. Have you built a home that birthed a legislator or an inventor or a president or a congressperson or a school teacher or a police officer or a fire person or a military veteran, or like, have you built a home that has birthed one of those things? Like, I think home builders have a legacy that they don't
Yeah,
claim,
that's
is
interesting.
that they've created a space that has been conducive for providing the type of leadership that leads this country and other countries.
That's interesting.
And they never really like own that.
And I'm sure it has. Like, I mean,
Oh,
I've
absolutely.
had clients for 15 years at this point that had babies when
Yeah.
I started working for them. So-
Actors, like basketball players, whatever you name it. Like, I'm sure. And like I'm always astonished at, like, people walk up to me all the time and be like, "Hey, do you remember you came and spoke at my school?" Or because I find in my business, like, once a month, I'm going to speak somewhere, whether I'm invited or not, because I feel like it's important to have like an impact and to be viewed as a person that really wants to spend time with young people. And so, like, I'll go somewhere and I'll speak. It's astonishing to me, in the airport, in cities that I haven't been in. People are like, "Hey, do you remember when you can?" I do not, but where are you from and what do you do? Like, it's a great way to kind of demonstrate those types of leadership things that people who have gone on before us, like, I owe it to my grandmother, I owe it to my grandfather, I owe it to my dad, I owe it to people who've come and poured so much into me, and I have to give that back to someone else. And I think that those are the sustainability qualities that we lose when we start to isolate ourselves from the rest of.
What are you speaking about? Like, what are you sharing in most of those talks?
Most of the times I'm talking about like opportunities and chance. Like,
Hmm.
it depends. I talk about how my father at 54 decided to go back to school because he didn't want to tell me to go. And if he hadn't, like,
Hmm.
those are things that like stand out to me, like the type of character that he had. And I share with them that, things aren't always going to be easy. Like, there's going to be challenges, and you get to choose, right? Do I accept the challenge and stand above it? Or do I digress and fall from the challenge and use it as an excuse to not be successful? And I think that the first is the only way that you can actually be able to say that, for the people who gave and invested to me, for my parents who took the time to nurture me, for the coach that taught me how to catch, for the teacher that gave me the class on biology, that gave me the insight to begin to look at nature differently. Like, for those people, like, what would they expect you to be able to do with those things? Like, it's an amazing opportunity. I feel like sustainability is that thing for me. It may not be the thing for everyone else or for anyone else, but I think that the thing I love about sustainability the most, it deals with the supply chain, because all the raw material extraction that comes from the earth's crust is what makes this country run and makes everything available. Then it's the heat, beat, and treat. It's how do you heat, beat, and treat materials. Then it's the end of life disposition. How much can we take from Mother Nature versus what we give her back to try to turn back into something that we can use? It's the full life cycle, and it's the same way across business. If you don't have a supply chain and raw materials, if you can't manufacture something that makes sense in an efficient and sustainable way, and then you don't have an end of life disposition for your product, your manufacturing days are short lived.
I have one more question for you, and then we can, if
Let's
there's
go.
anything else that you want to dig into or want to advocate for, but with regard to sustainability and legacy, and like hearing you speak about your dad and what he instilled in you and how you carry that on, and like that's how his legacy lives on. This recent loss in my family is the first time where like I can handle the emotional loss of a father-in-law. I'm okay with that. I can wrap my head around that. But like it's the first time that I've had kids that have
Oh yeah.
lost somebody close to them, and they were very present in my children's life, and my wife's an only child. Her mom doesn't really have family around, so like watching and experiencing the emotional trauma and the grief through the lens of my children and my family, like how did you handle that? Do you remember how you handled that? How do you continue to carry on with your life and cope with that experience? Because I've lost people in my life. It was fine when it was just my relationship with them, right? It just felt as though you lost your tie to them. But experiencing that through the lens of my children, my wife, and my mother-in-law is something that like I was not emotionally equipped or prepared for and had no idea until I like immediately experienced that. And I was like, this is much harder now than it ever has been.
Yeah. Well, one is counseling is good for kids. My kids had to definitely go through counseling with my dad when I lost my dad. I think the second thing is allow them to express what they're feeling freely. And when they express that, it's okay to speak through your father-in-law's
Yeah.
thoughts. So, hey, if he was here watching how you were feeling, how would you think he would want you to handle that? Right? I have strong faith. My dad was a minister, so like the connection between Christ and my kids and their beliefs and those things are already there. So I don't leverage them specifically because I want them to own them for
Yeah.
themselves. What I do share with them is that what legacy do you want to leave for Papa to remember about you? Right? Because he's watching. And there are other people who are watching you to see how you're going to create your own legacy as it relates to that. So, you know, what do you want to go to college for? Like I use that to like catapult other things that are already important to them. They're playing baseball. Like, how do you get better? Why aren't you working on that? And I use that to like motivate them in areas that they're already motivated. And then they find better coping mechanisms because it drives them in ways of things that you would have driven them in anyway. Right. And so I try to leverage them toward those things. And I use that so my older two daughters, they wanted to get tattoos. And I'm not a big tattoo
Same.
guy, but I didn't fight it. I wanted to so bad, but I didn't fight it. And I let it go. And they got little bitty tattoos. I thought they were going to get like whole shoulders and stuff like that. But they just got a fish with his name in it, like in a hidden place. And the only thing I shared with them was just remember that whatever decision you make about this tattoo, there are people who have a different vision of what a tattoo means when you go out professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And I would want you to make sure that you have every opportunity to be successful as you move around. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, like you use the same principles that you would teach them normally, you just leverage that into those principles and you allow them to kind of see themselves as a part of that, you know what I mean? And
that's a really cool insight and perspective as well, because I think, again, I'll be 40 next year, and there's not that, and it relates and ties to this conversation completely, but like as humans, we're typically viewing every experience through how it affects us and not always leveraging past experiences, you know, the legacy of loved ones who've left, our neighbors, our community. That's just not what society really values these days. So I think to be able to tie any experience or any decision in life to something bigger than yourself at, you know, 9 and 12 years old is super valuable, because even at 40, my instinct is just to look at things through my own eyes and not how they are, why my decisions may impact somebody else, or the motivations behind the decisions, actions, or inactions that I might take are affected by past relationships that I've had.
absolutely. Absolutely. And things are more transparent now than they've ever been before, right? You know, like they can Google anything. So like good, bad, or indifferent, they're gonna find out. One of the things that I always try to do is like be as honest as I can be, but also keep them to remind them that they're children.
Yeah.
Like there's tiers, and there's going to be a level of respect that you're going to give to every adult. But there are things that I want to encourage you to think about, like what were the things that you talked about with Papa? Like how did he inspire you? You're upset, but tell me why you're upset. Oh, you're upset because he's no longer here. I said, if he were here, what things inspired you by him? Like I would walk them through that so that they would get the tears out, but two, also begin to think about what purpose-driven lifestyle did he have, and what purpose-driven lifestyle do I want to
Yeah.
have? And make the connection between that purpose-driven lifestyle and what it is that I want for them to be successful. Like, so now you can start talking to them like, he sacrificed so that other people could be in a better position through political gains, through social activities. Like, where do you see yourself fitting into that in this society? Like, how do you see yourself having some value and giving back to the community? Do you want to volunteer at the church every month or whatever the case? So I used it to drive like things that I wanted to drive anyway, but it gave me the opportunity to drive them in very strategic ways that allowed them to kind of find themselves and kind of grow into what it is that they wanted to be at the same
The
time.
interesting is these are probably all experiences, practices, and behaviors that you came to realize yourself through this process that then you can then bestow upon your kids.
Yep. And I'm sure your wife has things inside of
Yeah.
her that she wants to share with them about him that manifest into ways that they can see the goodness in
Yeah.
him. And see the qualities that he brought to the table and the value that he delivered across the relationships. And like, those are things that make kids have pillars that they can stand on later on in life when things get tough or when they come into some other hardships, how to be able to deal and interact with people in different ways. And I see that now through my kids. It's been 7 years now since dad passed, and I'm starting to see a few more things. And I was fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time. They just named maybe 3 years ago a park after my dad in my hometown.
That's cool.
So now we go home once a year and it's a simple cookout at the park, right? No balloon release, none of that kind of stuff. It's just a simple cookout to remind us of like, hey, it's a staple chase. And they wanted to plant 2 trees. All right, let's do it. I was like, you're going to do the research. What trees are native to this area? Which ones add value? Do you want it to be a fruit bearing tree? And they painted an apple tree and a pear tree 7 years ago. And the pear tree bared pears for the first time this year.
Cool.
So like, it's little stuff that you just try to do to just get them to see the connectivity between life and providing other resources and giving them the value to kind of see the core things. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that for the sake of feeling comfortable. I always tell one of my cousins has kids, and I told him, I say, hey, man, you can't live your football career through them. Stop. You got to stop. You got to let them find their own way, like encourage them and put them in camps and do all those things. But 2 different people, 2 different times, 2 different eras.
Yeah.
And you've got to allow yourself to give them the ability to kind of grow into it. And they respected that. But like, I think that we've got to do the same with our kids. Like, hey, I don't expect you to be like me. I grew up in a different time. We didn't have social media. I had a pager. That was it. Right. So like, I don't have the connections that you have, but you also have way more resources. So you should be. If you think about the kids that are coming out of college now are making 3 times as much money as I was making when I came out, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Things cost more. So I can see the relationship between the two, but they also have a different mentality. And I'm going to close with this. My oldest daughter told me this, and it teared me up. So she said to me when she got her first job, she was using all of her PTO. And I was like, babe, you need to save your PTO and like stop traveling so much and doing all this stuff and going out of these countries. Like, you got to focus on like saving that stuff. She looked me in my eyes. She says, hey, Dad, for 20 something years, I've watched you fly, travel, and go and do all of this stuff. And now you're old trying to vacation. I don't want to wait till I get your age to vacation. I want to enjoy it while I'm young. And for the first moment, I recognized that she had been seeing me jump on planes, get on trains, automobiles, work, 60, 70, 80-hour weeks without taking any time for myself and vacation. And she looks at that as like, that's the version of insanity, right? They see it differently. They've watched us work like unknown people, right? Like we're machines. And they're saying to themselves, I don't want to do that. That's why this younger generation is like, oh yeah, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to use my vacation. I'm going to maximize those things. They do it because they've watched us do it and they don't see any value that we got from it. So they're going to maximize and they're going to ask for more vacation time. They'll take less in order to work from home. They'll do all of these things because they want to control more of their time and value. And I think we don't look at it like that. We're kind of like, we were of the era I was of, you go to school, you come out, you work hard, you get the things that you want, and you keep working and you move up the ladder. That was the way we were taught. It's going to be tough, right? They're not coming from that perspective because we've given them a little bit more than we
Yeah.
had, and their experiences have been different and they've been exposed to a lot more. So they're approaching it from a standpoint is like, hey, I need my time. And they need more mental space and stability than we needed to, because there's more chaos going on now than what's going on with us
Yeah.
too. Like, you can't get a good fist fight anymore.
That's
Right?
so
When I
true.
was growing up, you know what I'm saying? Like, when I was growing up, hey, we're gonna square off when you get off the bus.
Nobody's
You
gonna
need to
know
have,
about it.
you know what I mean? Like, we're gonna have one and we're gonna walk away, and tomorrow we're gonna be playing baseball together. That doesn't happen anymore. That's over with. So now they got to find other ways to deal with conflict that we didn't have to deal with. Got to have the fear of being bullied or cyber bullied or shot at or a school like, we didn't have that growing up.
Yeah.
Nah, there was accountability back then.
Yeah, different stressors, brother.
What? So when you gonna buy her
Different.
the Gucci purse
She got it. She
with
got
the
it.
couch?
You know, yeah, she got it. You know.
George, I gotta say, you're a very impressive individual. To end on the note about you being a father, like, I'm sitting here realizing, like, you sound like an incredible father, and the lessons that you shared today, and just like what I'm taking away from a lot of this conversation is how there's, I don't want to say allow, but it's like you kind of allow your daughters to be who they are, but you're giving them the information as to how you would make a decision, but allowing that decision to be theirs. And it's, truthfully, like, I spend a lot of my time wondering how to be a better business person, how to run a better business, a more profitable business. And I spend, a small amount of time on how to be a better husband and how to be a better father. And I don't think I'm a poor one of either, but I know I could always be better. And to hear you say that, makes me realize, there's, and frankly, that could be applied to business as well, right? Like, getting someone to make the decision rather than giving them the answer. All that to be said, I appreciate you spending so much time with us today.
Sir, it's been an honor to be on the show. I will say this, if you are a better parent, better husband, better friend, better neighbor, you'll become a better business person. It's connected. Like,
Yeah.
the qualities that it takes to do those things as a father, as a parent, as a husband, like, those qualities are the same qualities it takes to lead a team.
Yeah. Right.
Same thing. Nurture, care, direction, structure, firm. Like, they're the same things. It's just like you're converting it over to another pathway. And I think it took me a while to get to this point. So don't think that I have always been here, because that's not the case.
Sure.
But what I will tell you is that, I don't know, at 40, your kids are probably in their teens at the highest and down in the 6s and 7s at the lowest. Am I close?
Yeah. So mine are 9 and 12. Nick's are a little younger. He's a little younger than me.
So I will tell you this: when they get 13 and 14, you will be a complete idiot.
I mean, what if you already are?
They will look at you as if you don't, like, that you can't relate to where they are.
Yeah.
Because they can't see the values that you've given them are going to transition them to the next. When they get 17 or 18, all of a sudden you become their best friend. They see you differently, not because you're paying for them to go to college. That helps. But because they do get to see that you have invested in them the qualities that have made them be able to get through it, and that switch goes on. And during that 3 years, you're kind of like, man, what the hell is going on, right? You got to have that patience to continue to, like, beat that drum, continue to be there when they make like those are things that I had to learn, right? I didn't do it always right. And my dad was around, so he was really one of the ones like, hey, don't forget what you did when you were
Mm-hmm.
16. Don't forget like sometimes we get selective amnesia now. We forget the beer that we drank on the back of the
I'm just
truck.
glad
We
there
forget
weren't phones around when I was that age.
Hey, we wouldn't be in the roles we're in right now if they had some cameras
I
back when
no
I was
documentation.
yeah. Hey man,
There's no
listen.
proof.
So, but they are underneath a different type of pressure. But like they will get out of it. And like when they get out of it, they're gonna need a safe place to come to. And that's what I figured out sooner rather
Yeah,
than later.
it's like putting the framework in place, but then giving them the agency to make some of the mistakes and their own decisions for themselves, and providing them with like the framework and the guidance.
Yep.
Which is, I mean, great advice. My old one that will definitely work for the young one might need a harder hand, but we'll see.
I get that too. So the reason she got the Gucci purse was because she got a new home.
You don't have to
but
explain
she
it to me. Listen.
kept the 2014 Altima.
Ah, all right.
So she didn't get a new car. She just went and got that one tuned up.
Good
and
for her.
Said, so
What?
I was proud of
Yeah.
her. So the person in the trunk was-
Prioritizing.
yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time. Honestly, like from the outset, the conversation is exactly what we had wanted. A perfect podcast guest. I think that we dipped our toes in plenty. If there's anything else that you need to, again, advocate for, if it's Andersen, yourself, the stage is yours. If not, like I said, we appreciate you coming on. Ellie had reached out to us today and was like, you're having George on. I can't wait. Like, I'm so excited for this episode. So it was great. Like I felt that you had no program, no agenda, you weren't up on your soapbox. So it was just a great conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Andersen speaks for itself, and I'm honored to be at the organization. It's been a great place for me to land at. Great people, great leadership team, and we're going to make some lasting legacy with the way we're going to do business in the future. And I'm super excited about the direction that the organization is headed and how we're embracing sustainability as a cross-functional cultural opportunity. But I think that, Andersen is about the people who actually make Andersen who they are. So I think that sometimes we get on the podcast and we talk so much shop or so much about specific initiatives that we have going on. Like those are things that it requires people to make them happen. I think we lose sight of that sometimes because the programs don't run themselves. It has to have quality people behind them to actually make them run. And I'm just grateful to be one of those people that work all together with Andersen's concepts to make things work. And so it's a great place to be.
Absolutely. We appreciate it.
George.
Thank you guys for having me.
We'll be in touch.
Hey, maybe
All
we'll
right,
get to
please
meet
do.
you soon.
Let's do it.
You're in
do it.
Minnesota?
Yeah, I'm in Minnesota now. I live in St. Paul. I bought a place up in St. Paul. So, and I'll be in Boston, well, actually Rhode Island. I have a nephew that plays cornerback for Brown University. So I'll be up there to see him play a few times. So maybe we'll bump into each other somewhere and grab a beer.
That'd be great.
I'm dying right now.
Okay.
My kids just got home from camp and I can hear them like battling each other outside.
That's good, man. That's a good thing.
Oh, man.
If they weren't battling each other, you'd be concerned.
I would be. Something would be wrong.
Too quiet.
Yeah. Have a
Thanks,
good one,
George.
man. Enjoy.
Take care.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Not where I thought that conversation was going, but I mean, talk about a cool dude in so many ways.
Yeah, I honestly, if we could have more conversations like that,
It was just deep.
I feel like I just had a therapy session.
I'm okay with that. I definitely drank too much caffeine before, so I was like sitting in my
all
chair,
wired,
all super wired, and which made me want to talk, but I was like, I can't. I got to listen to this guy.
Yeah,
just well spoken.
It
a lot of good intel.
Digging into him more, and then like the sustainability and trying to create, I guess, like the correlation between corporate business sustainability and like even from our perspective how we're selling to clients, the costs associated with that. I couldn't really wrap my head around it, and the more we got into the conversation, the more that I learned about it and like what it really means. I feel that sustainability is at the heart of every business decision, life decision, relationship, and it's not just a line from whatever your goal is, whatever your model is, to sustainability. Like, sustainability is fully woven within the fabric of whatever it is, and it's like, you want your marriage to be sustainable. What do you have to do? You want your friendship to be sustainable. You want your relationship with your kids, your business, your podcast, whatever it is. Like, our goal should be to create sustainability with everything, and it's completely envelops every aspect of our life and business. And the more we talk about it, the more like, damn, this is the perfect job for George. Like, perfect.
Yeah.
So really great conversation. I enjoyed that a lot.
As always, guys, head over to moderncraftsman.co, sign up for our newsletter. Every week we send out some behind the scenes information of what we got going on, and a ton of good value. We're pumping out more and more free, just content for you guys to continue to build, what we set out to build 8 years ago. And we'd open up the conversation. Email us, reply to our emails, and let us know how we're doing, what you want to hear about, what you want to talk about. We are actively, reshaping the next chapter, the next, going into, year 9, and really shaping what this podcast will continue to be. I would back up and say not just podcast, but the community of Modern Craftsman. So like I said, moderncraftsman.co, sign up for the newsletter. And then when you get it, make sure you respond. See you next week.